Welcome to After the Paycheck, the video series dedicated to helping people to and through their retirement process. I'm your host, Adam Bly. Today I am here with founder and CEO, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sam Lang from Rubino & Lang Wealth Partners.
Embarrassing me again.
What's going on?
All right.
I like that. New glasses?
You're very observant today. Yes, new glasses.
Where do you get those? Warby Parker?
This is Warby Parker.
Warby
Yeah.
Parker?
Nice and easy. Boom, boom,
I
boom.
gotta check them out. I've been doing the contacts lately, but my eyes are getting kind of
Half
dry.
the price and it's easy. Painless.
You can make those checks out to Sam Lang, Warby Parker. In today's episode of After the Paycheck is going to be something that you and I had been talking because you had come out with meeting with somebody a few weeks ago, and you were talking about how the meeting went really well because the person had been asking a lot of questions. And I was like, how so? And you had noted that sometimes people, when they come in and they're talking about their retirement situation, and you start to discuss a specific product with them, their eyes will glaze over, or they seem like they're too timid and they don't want to ask a question.
You can sense they want to ask, but they don't.
But they don't want to. Yeah. Right. So it's up to you then to kind of walk them through what all of these terms are. Mm-hmm. And if they don't do that, a lot of times they might be confused, or they don't want to come back because they're almost embarrassed. I don't want to say embarrassed, but they like you said, you don't know what you don't know. And it can cause fear, and fear can cause inaction. So I thought today I would just kind of go over a glossary of terms and just have you rapid fire lightning around this. Okay. So the first one is a participation rate. So if somebody's meeting with you and you're going over a specific product or service and you talk about participation rate, what does that mean?
Yeah, so participation rate, it's certainly not one of those general terms that we hear every day. Mm-hmm. But if you're nearing retirement, you might be talking to your financial or retirement professional, talking about options on how you can make sure that you have income.
Okay.
That you don't run out of money. So oftentimes that conversation might lead to talking about creating a pension or having an annuity or some type of insurance product. So the participation rate term comes with talking about those type of products.
Okay.
And really what that really means is very simple. If the index that you chose in that particular product goes up by this much, if the participation rate is, say, 50%, then you get half of that rate.
Okay.
All right, so you might say, well, why would I only settle for a percentage?
Right.
That's because you don't participate if it goes down, if it's negative, right? So,
okay.
Yeah, back in the early 70s when some of these products were just sort of invented, a local company called Keyport Life came out with it's like an S&P type of an index.
Okay.
And it basically said, look, the participation rate is 70%. So if it goes up by 10, you're only going to get 7. If it goes up by 20, you're only going to get 14. But the flip side is that if it goes down by 10, you don't lose any money.
Right, okay.
So if somebody said to me, you can get 70% of the upside, none of the downside, that might be a conversation you want to have.
Right.
And that's what the participation rate refers to.
Okay. How is that different than the next item on my list here, which is caps?
So caps is like a maximum. Think a cap and a maximum, the same word.
Okay.
And if the cap is, say, 6%, and it goes up by 6%, you don't get a percentage of that. You get all of it.
Okay.
If it goes up by 7, then you get 6. If it goes up by 20, you still only get 6.
Okay.
So where that might come into play is if you think the economy is just going to be a very sort of mediocre year, you might earn the low single digits. Let's say we had a crystal ball. We knew at the end of the year the rate was going to be up, say, 5%. Mm-hmm. If the cap is 6, I'd rather take that because I'd get the entire 5% versus having a participation rate. Let's say the participation rate was 70%.
Right.
Try not to confuse everybody. But if it went up by 5%,
yep.
70% of 5% is only 3.5%.
Right.
So I'd rather have the cap in that sense. But part of the sort of the education process is to educate you on all of these different options, and then you get to choose what is the best one.
You think
or maybe you do more than one. Maybe you do 2.
Okay. Yeah. And that's something that people don't think about either, right? There's always options.
Sure,
right, you can diversify.
Yeah.
So you kind of got into this a little bit, spreads and margins. You just said if the market does 6 and I'm capped at 6, I only get 5. That's because there's a spread or a margin on top of that?
Yeah, so not quite.
Okay.
Spread and a margin really sort of think of a fee.
Okay.
So like I have a Fidelity account, let's say my fee is 1%. That means whatever I earn, Fidelity keeps the first 1% and I get the balance. The problem with that, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, right? But the problem is if it goes down. So let's say it goes down 10%, I still have to pay a fee for somebody to lose me money.
Right.
That's probably not the smartest thing, right? A spread or a margin generally speaking, only comes into play when there's a positive gain. So let's say that same spread or margin is 1%, goes up by 10, you get 9.
Right.
But if it goes down, well, we're not paying a spread, we're not paying a margin, and because we're inside some of these financially protected and principal protected insurance products, we actually don't lose any money.
Okay.
So you don't pay for anything, you don't make anything, but everybody else lost money.
Right.
I'll take a big fat goose egg.
Yeah, just when zeros are good.
Yeah, zeros are good.
So annual point to point.
Annual point to point, a lot of times people will say, well, what did it do last year? What did the return, what did the index do last year? It actually almost doesn't matter, because last year means you put money in January 1, take it out December 31st. That's how you, like, who does that, right? So, nobody. So if today was, like, let's say it's March 1st, it only matters starting March 1st of this year, what is the actual return a year from today, March 1st of next year, whatever that index is, and we'll just put some numbers into an example. Let's say the index is 1,000 today. A year from today, the index is 1,100.
Okay.
And let's say I have a 70% participation rate in my gain. So we know that's a gross gain of 10%.
Okay.
But 70% participation rate is a 7% rate of return to me.
For you. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Are
there different types of point to points other than annual? Or?
There's sometimes 2-year point to points. There's some strategies that are 5-year point to points. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so those are just different products, or are there times where you might recommend one over the other?
We might layer.
Layer. Okay.
And also depends if people are coming in and let's say their 2-year point to point might have a participation rate greater than 100%. So we might want to take advantage of that.
Okay.
So again, options.
Right. Yeah. So it's always good to understand what they are. Right. And that actually ties to what we're talking about right here, just so that people understand.
Exactly.
Continuing on with the glossary of terms, surrender charge.
Surrender charge. So if you've ever owned a CD, you know what a surrender charge is. So let's say you go to the bank, you say, hey, you know what, I want to keep my money safe. I want to put it in this bank. What's the interest rate on my money market account? Well, it might be very low. So you might say, well, that's not enough. Is there anything else that I can get a higher interest rate? Right. Oh yeah, we have a 5-year CD, and the 5-year CD is, let's say, it's at 3%.
Okay.
Well, you don't pay for that, right? There's no commission up front. There's no fees. So why is one at 1%, one's at 5%? Well, the 5-year CD has a 5-year surrender period, and how the bank makes money is they take your money, they go loan it to you or me to buy a house or a car. And they charge me 4, they keep 1, and they pay us 3 for that 5-year CD.
Okay.
But the downside is that we can't touch that money for 5 years. So the surrender charge or surrender period might come into play if we're talking to somebody that says, hey, you know what, I'm 60, I'm not going to use this money till I'm 70 when I have to take out my required minimum distribution. Is there anything that I can look at? And if you're looking at products with surrender charges, generally there are no fees involved.
Okay.
So that's a trade-off, right? You can't touch all of your money at once, but you're not paying. You're not paying a fee.
Right.
So that might work in some cases.
So there's scenario people hear that term, maybe oh, surrender charge. I cannot get my money for X amount of years. But if you're in a situation like you just said, where I can get a little bit more growth out of it because I don't need it. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I like that kind of comparison that you said, where it's like a CD, where it's like, hey, we have this that we can grow in a little bit more higher performing asset, but you can't touch it.
Yeah, up front you're not going to touch it, or in some of these products that we're talking about, it's not like, even if you have a 5-year surrender period, it's not like you can't touch it for 5 years. Most of them allow you to take out either interest, or most of them have a 10% penalty-free withdrawal window that you can touch anytime.
Oh, so it's even, I don't want to say better than the CD, but it's different in the CD in the sense that you can even access some of that. You still have some liquidity in there.
100%.
Right. Whereas with the CD, the second you touch that principal, you've eliminated all of your...
it's your money. You can touch it.
Well,
you just have to pay a penalty.
Right, right. And with the CD, you lose all that interest and everything that you would be gaining through all the years. Yeah. I like that. Okay. So stacking is the next one on my list.
Stacking usually, if you're talking to somebody about creating a pension, they might have certain options in there that you can pay for that will give you a guaranteed income stream no matter how long you live, even if the account goes to 0. And stacking usually usually comes with that, where you get some type of a minimum guarantee. Okay. Let's say it's 3%. And then whatever index you choose, let's say you chose ABC index and it made a net to you 5%. Stacking means you take the 5, you put it on top of the 3, and your actual return is 8.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
And not all contracts have that. Some do.
I was just going to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a fit, and sometimes it's not worth it.
I was just going to ask that. So, is there a time where it wouldn't be worth it, or that you wouldn't want a stacking option? Or?
Yeah. Generally, stacking comes only with riders that give you the ability to turn into a pension.
Okay.
So if you said to me, I have plenty of income, but I just want to put my money in someplace safe and earn a reasonable rate of interest, we probably wouldn't be having that stacking conversation.
Okay. You just mentioned rider, which is actually the next on my list. Income rider. Can you define that? What is
Sure.
Somebody
An
asks
income
about
rider is an optional feature that you can pay for, and essentially the best way to describe it is like buying insurance on your money to give you an income stream, even if you live too long and there's no money left.
that. Okay.
Okay, so it's kind of like having the ability to turn your money into a pension for as long as you're alive. Really no differently than if you work for a company and you go to retire, they give you the party and the gold watch and all that. But they also give you a pension, which is really a thing in the past. But instead of the lump sum, they say, hey, you know what, Adam, we'll give you $2,000 a month for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There's no like fine print that says, well, we're only going to give it to you if you don't die, after 80.
Okay.
So this is an income rider is sort of the same thing as that. Creating that pension on your own money,
Yep.
paying for it. Now understand, all income riders come with a fee, somewhere around probably 0.75% to about 1%.
Okay.
In that range. But it's in certain instances it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so you're talking about like you said, it's kind of creating your own pension. So if my concern is I'm X amount of years old, I'm getting ready to retire. I don't know if my money is going to make it through the amount that I'm going to, or I don't know if my money will make it all the way through retirement.
Well, life expectancy is, let's say, 82.
Okay.
What if you say, hey, you know what if I live to 83?
It's okay. That's exactly what I'm getting at. So this kind of allows you to set it up so that way, if you make it to 83, you're still gonna have the consistent pay, right?
Yeah, like in my example, I'm in my mid 50s. My cat's the secret's out.
Not a day over 29.
Look at all the hair and the glasses, right? But my parents, my dad lived to 97, my mom lived to 95. My wife's parents, well into their 80s. Her grandparents lived, two of them lived to almost 100.
Right. Wow.
So we have sort of longevity on our side.
Yep.
And I have these products. I actually have an income rider that I pay a little bit of money on every year. But you know what? I'm okay with that.
Right.
Because if I live a long time, it's going to guarantee me that I'll have this stream of income, regardless how long I live.
Perfect. That's
what
exactly
an
the
income
scenario
rider
I have in
is.
my head.
Yeah.
I have like someone who's older than me. Their parents, lived way longer than they thought, and eventually, I don't want to say became a burden, but it was a burden on the children that they had, because she ran out of money and had to go to a nursing home, and the family had to all chip in. Yeah,
I hear that a lot.
And had she had an income rider, maybe it would have been enough to maybe pay for some of that, or
Maybe it wasn't enough, but certainly helped the cause and lessened the burden.
Right. Perfect. All right. I like that. Are there any downsides to having an income rider?
Well, why pay for it if you don't need the income stream? Right?
That's
If you have Social Security is plenty, and you have a pension, and you don't spend a ton of money, we're not talking income riders, because income riders, there's cost to it, having an income rider.
Okay, that's good to know as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sam, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I hope
Always
you
fun doing this.
the lightning round that we had here.
Yeah, I'm a little tired after this.
Yeah, right? If you have other questions, or if you have other terms that you want either Sam or someone else from the office to address, feel free to fill it out in the form below, or head to afterthepaycheck.com if you're not already there, and sign up for future episodes of After the Paycheck, and we'll go over those topics as we get them. Thank you for tuning in. Check you out next time.